Hey, and welcome to another episode of Spear from the Past. Um, Today we've hit our first pay per view I've ever covered on this from 2020s, which is fun. And I've got Steve Macy here. Steve, how's it going?
It's going very well, and I'm looking forward to covering one of the like this event was in the peak, basically in the peak of the pandemic, and it was a event of this scale of Atsu with a minimum crowd. It was a very interesting thing to watch, especially we were watching it now in context, because the first time I watched it was basically live. So watching it back now 5 years later, almost 5 years later, almost to when Corona hit stateside and it was declared a national emergency. You know,
Yeah, like I've said this before. Like I don't think I've ever really fully watched NXT just because it wasn't widely available. So watching this, and especially with some of these people which I've watched a lot more now, where they've done some of them kind of vastly different now. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But one thing I do like doing is doing a small segment like looking up at what's else was happening on the stage, like in other areas. The number one movie of the world was The Croods: A New Age. The number one song at the time this pay per view happened was "Mood" by 24K Golden featuring In Dior. I think I've probably heard that song once before. I've not. I don't remember it.
I never heard.
And the number one album was El Ultimo Tour del Mundo from WWE superstar Bad Bunny. Before he
Hmm.
was.
Okay.
um, but jumping into this, and yeah, I've watched sort of bits and pieces of the Thunderdome here, but what the one thing jarring of this is like the Thunderdome here was always one of those awkward ones to watch because like it felt as if the crowd was well piped in because from the minimal crowd that it had,
Right.
I don't think they would have like. I find it hard to believe that they were actually making that much noise.
No, no, no.
And it's one of those ones like, especially in some areas, it looked like the people on the screens, they weren't really reacting much because they're just sitting at home. um, Steve, what are your thoughts about this Thunderdome era?
Uh, it's yeah. It is a funny thing to watch that happen, but yeah, that crowd was definitely piped in, and all those noises were like, you can't really fill in a wrestling show with just silences. So I mean, they
Oh
have
yeah,
they had to get a canned audience to grab from a random, probably an NXT live that they had before the pandemic hit. They're like, oh, let's maybe record some crowd noises before national emergency, before everybody just the world goes to shit. But it was very weird. Fireworks to start the things off, pyro inside a building seems very. I mean, the fireworks seem a little too closer to the roof there. I'm like, oh god, I don't know. I mean, I get it's war. I get it. Oh, excuse me, war games. Because I'm always gonna say war games every time it's war games. Thank you, Regal. But yeah, it was a very awkward way to start. Again, speaking of awkward, maybe this will segue into the first match of the night.
yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, I did spend a good half hour trying to find a good clip of Regal saying war games, but I just couldn't. but but speaking of which, the first match we had was the first War Games match, which was Team Candice, which was Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, who is later gets changed to Rodriguez, and Tony Storm defeating Team Shotzi, which was Shotzi, Ember Moon, a blonde Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai, who is now more commonly known as Io Sky. And yeah, as this is one of those ones I've always really enjoyed these war game stipulations, like and the few times I have watched the war games matches because um I think they're a lot of fun. I do wish that at the Survivor Series, though, like I get they've called it Survivor Series War Games, that they actually still have a Survivor Series match on the card, but they just haven't had one on there since. But I mean, it was one of those ones. This match was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed the spot where like they kept on trying to keep Io out of the sky, up Io out of the cage for a good chunk of the match, which kind of backfired on them because they couldn't start Wargames until Io dove into the cage of the trash can, which I admit it was a fun spot, and I'm pretty sure they redid that one last year.
Yeah, they've been doing that spot every single year she was in a war game. So every time there's a war game and Io's in a match, she takes out the trash can and everybody pops very fucking loud. So yeah.
But Steve, what are your thoughts about this opening Wargames match?
It was fun, but honestly, this probably out of the 5 matches on the card, this is probably the worst match on the card. To be honest with you, and what I mean by worst match, I mean weakest. So like this is probably the weakest match on the card. There's a lot of There's a lot of timing spots where the girls were just standing there awkwardly, especially right before that big suplex on each side of the ring happened. You can notice they were just waiting for them to position. So there was awkward spots. The mallet that got introduced into the match. An announcers didn't really make didn't make any like oh my god, they didn't make any reactions to it, like and then you would see basically they would go from a bigger, more harmful weapon to a smaller, less harmful weapon, which didn't make sense. They were downgrading their weapons in a War Games match. That didn't really make any sense. Now there were some really great gnarly spots, like the Eclipse hit Ember Moon hitting the Eclipse on Dakota Kai while she's landing on some chairs, and Storm Zero onto the trash can, and some pretty cool spots, and the one-handed power bomb into the middle, where basically that's where we saw Raquel pin Io, who would eventually actually dethrone Io later that year at Stand and Deliver during Mania season. So like this was basically kind of like a Raquel coming out party. So this was all her. She was the MVP in the match. But again, there was some awkward timing. There were some weapon choices that didn't make any sense. But of course, the most iconic spot was probably Io jumping out from the sky, because it basically did. We would basically get her doing that spot every year, and it no matter what, it's quite a fun spot.
But yeah, and it's one of those ones like, yeah, I kind of agree with you a lot of those points as well. I think War Games is one of those ones where, like, you do get a lot of those things. Sometimes they can do it interesting, especially when it's like one on one, and there's like until someone else comes down.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to the next match, we had Tommaso Ciampa defeating Timothy Thatcher, who I completely forgot existed.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I know his name is from playing the WWE video games. I'm pretty sure he was in it one year.
Only one
year. Yeah. But despite that, this match, like, it was still a really good match. Like, Tommaso Ciampa's like a really good worker, and Timothy Thatcher is one of those ones which I think he may be interested to want to see more of him. I'm pretty sure like he's out of WWE now by now, but it's like it was.
Yeah, he's on the wrestling scene. You can catch a couple of matches like him and Daniel Maccabee from Action Wrestling. Dean, go definitely check that out if you have IWTV, which is Independent Wrestling in America. That's one of the best matches of last year, especially during Mania season. And he had a couple good ones. He has one. I think he has Suzuki this year, I believe. Somewhere. I know it's a Suzuki and Thatcher match, and then there's a Timothy Thatcher and Adam Priest match. Adam Priest is a Alabama native wrestler who is actually probably one of the top indie wrestlers in the United States. But yeah.
But the match was pretty good, and it was one of those ones like it was clear they just really wanted to like rip each other apart. It's just like it's just a nice brutal match, and the stare down the end is like is one of those ones like it's hard to tell if like it was grudgingly respect for each other or just wanting more. But Steve, what are your thoughts about Ciampa versus Thatcher?
This was an improvement from the opening match. This was a good, snug, hard-hitting match. Both Ciampa and Thatcher both have they're different styles, but their offenses in terms of the way that they hit each other are similar. They just had different ways to be able to do that. Thatcher is more of a mat technician and a hard hitter, while Ciampa's always like hard. While Ciampa can go toe to toe with Thatcher in the mat, he can also he more or less has more of an offense and more offense and more an eclectic moves compared to Thatcher. Yeah, man, this was great. I loved it. Thatcher being aware of the camera and just looking like hey baby, come over here so I can beat you up some more. And just he was very. I love that he was very aware of the camera, especially for somebody who is especially new to the system. And yeah, man, it was good. Willow's belt putting Thatcher to pastures and giving Ciampa the win.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't just have much more to add. It was just a fun match, and yeah, and Ciampa's all been one of those guys like I've been really enjoying, especially when he's been a heel, like because he's somehow like he's like there's some wrestlers that seem to have thrive more as a heel or slash face, and I think Ciampa's really thriving as a heel. Even Johnny Gargano, I think is really good as a heel as well. But moving on to the next match, we've got Dexter Lumis versus Cameron Grimes, and this is the third episode of Spear from the Past in a row. We've had a pay-per-view which had a bloody strap match on it. The last two, well, a strap match type as last week was a chain match, but
same difference.
Yeah, and I'll say what I said there. It's like I don't really like the concept of the strap matches. Although with this one, I didn't mind as much because it wasn't the bullshit drag your opponent around the corner and touch corners kind of strap match. This was actually a just beat the opponent up with a strap and get a pin, which I like it when it's like that. But it's one of those ones like this match kind of sold me for why like Dexter Lumis was picked to be in the right set. Like he really has that sort of creepy like face, and it's just one of those ones like it makes sense for why he was one of those ones that was handpicked to be in the right six. Especially with the fact like him as a wrestler was just pretty silent all the way all the time. There's even just watching the the match video where they show sort of how they got to the match is like just him doing the whole like video of showing Cameron Grimes running around and all that. It's just a lot of fun. And Cameron Grimes has been one of those interesting characters as well. I think he's one of those ones. I think when he got moved to SmackDown, I was like he kind of lost some of that luster and all that. But yeah, the match was good, and it's one of those ones. I like the fact that like Cameron Grimes brought in his own strap. Is like be using this one. I'm not having the match, which included a blindfold and that to try and stop Dexter. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. But Steve, what are your thoughts on Dexter Lumis versus Cameron Grimes?
This was a very good match. Cameron Grimes, aka Trevor Lee, and Dexter Lumis, aka Samuel Shaw. Before they took on those personas, they were great workers. Sam Shaw from TNA Impact, he did a lot of great stuff with Kennedy. Trevor Lee, Trevor Lee was also from Impact too, doing a lot of stuff with Caleb Conley in the X Division, a former X Division champion. And having them take on utilizing, having taken on big personalities it was a different change for me when I was watching them compared to what they were doing in Impact. But like they made what they were given work. Cameron Grimes as the millionaire, the hillbilly millionaire. Dexter Lumis as the silent psychopath. They really make it work. Now their match on the other hand, it's probably one of the best strap matches in a while. I think one of the best ones next to I believe it was Daniel Bryan versus The Fiend in Royal Rumble 2020. So that match was a good that was a good strap match, and so was this one because they were able to utilize and punish each other by doing different type of methods through their straps. And it told a great story. It had Grimes utilizing different type of methods to try to beat Dexter, but unfortunately he basically ended up getting choked out, giving Dexter Lumis the win.
And then after that, we just quickly we're not going to talk much about this. I really enjoyed this the vignette they did for Karrion Kross, where they actually had the lights flicker off in the stadium and had the announcers like, what the hell is that sort of thing? And it's one of those. I hope they do more like vignettes for upcoming superstars. Again, just like doing something like that where they do something in the actual stadium. I think it's kind of an interesting way to announce that they. Because I know they did that a lot when the White Six was were doing it as well, because they're playing Nightbird throughout the stadium every now and ad break and that. But moving on from that, we had a triple threat match for the North American Championship. We had Johnny Gargano versus Leon Ruff versus Damian Priest. And yeah, this match I really enjoyed. Like probably my the first time I've seen sort of Damian Priest sort of outside the Judgment Day. Like and just see it, like I think it was really good then as well. And I think this was a fun triple threat because like you had Leon Ruff taken out at one point. And so Johnny Gargano and Damian Priest got to go 1-on-1. And it's one of those ones. I always find it funny when it's a Wargames match because like they have they when it's anything other than Wargames match, like they have to use one half of those rings. I feel like it could be a very interesting match if they could utilize both rings. But it is what it is. And yeah, and even the ending I think was a lot of fun, just having all these ghost faces come out to taunt Damian Priest and the reveal that it was Austin Theory all along. It does make me wonder though if if WWE had to pay a license to have Ghostface appear on a pay per view. But Steve, what are your thoughts about Johnny Gargano versus Leon Ruff versus Damian Priest?
This was a fun triple threat, man. This was really good. One of my favorite spots was Damian Priest giving the Razor's Edge to Ruff through the fucking barricades and just yoinked. He just yeeted him on the barricade and took him out for the time being. Great. Another spot was Gargano's DDT on Priest on the rampway. That was really fun. And then seeing Ruff, just like you don't see him until like you really see him like fucking like charging to the ring and just fucking like taking out everybody, taking out Priest, taking out Gargano, like doing that baby face, but doing it more athletically, more exciting, just like jumping from the rampway to the ring and just pounding on people. It was interesting I don't know, the Phantom. I mean, we could have lost the 5 or 6 Phantom spots that were Priest beat up. I think if we kept Ghostface getting clunking Priest with the lead pipe, I think that Phantom spot wasn't necessary. I don't think it was necessary because you would have just had Austin as Ghostface just clunk Priest and then have one final beat Gargano beat Ruff. So I think the only thing that really took away from the spot was that little 5 or 6 people trying to beat up on Priest. That didn't make sense. And you also had Gargano win the championship for the 3rd time, which is nobody's ever won the North American Championship 3 times. He's the first person to be a 3-time North American champion.
Yeah, no, and we'll definitely get more into that later. But like, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think they overused Ghostface. I definitely agree with you on that point. But moving on to the final Wargames match of the time, which was the Undisputed Era, which was Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, which I think is all they're all back together in TNA, if I'm not mistaken,
Uh,
like as a group.
well, Bobby Fish is not there no more.
Oh, okay. Then versus Team McAfee, which is Pat McAfee, Pete Dunne, Danny Burch, and One Lorcan. And yeah, and this was just once again, this is just a fun War Games match, and
Oh, yeah.
it's just the and it's one of those ones like um I don't know why a lot of people don't spend a lot of time outside the ring just throwing in weapons but like this year but I think it was really fun seeing Pat bringing in tables that had all the names of the Undisputed Era,
Mm-hmm.
which was a lot of fun. I'm now imagining Pat sitting under the ring just painting all those names. But it's just one of those ones like it's a lot of fun, and it was also fun just having like the tables backfire on them and to
Yeah.
have the Undisputed Era sort of throw people through the tables and just with them coming out with the win. I think it was just one of those ones that I think uh, made it interesting and made it really fun to watch. But Steve, what are your thoughts about this final War Games match?
Easily the best match of the night. This was excellent. Has some great spots. You have Pat McAfee doing a moonsault. I mean, we see. I don't know if you've seen at the because this is his second match ever. So his first match was against Adam Cole. I don't know if you ever seen that. Have you seen that match yet?
No, I haven't seen
It's
that.
pretty cool. It's pretty cool because this was his first match has some great spots. All of you go find it. Go find his match with Adam Cole. I think it's one of the takeovers that
Yeah,
happened.
I'll probably get to it eventually then.
It's good for what it was and very surprising. But now he was a little too powerful. I mean, you have Cole do a Panama Sunrise on Pat McAfee and he fucking kicks out. That's basically his fucking finisher. I mean, I get that you want to showcase his talent, but don't make him too strong. If anything, you could probably let somebody else take the Panama Sunrise and then somebody interfere, or had Birch or Lorcan interfere and cut off the match instead of fucking Pat kicking out, because that was the only gripes I had. Pat McAfee seemed like super fucking Cena in this match, up until the point that where he couldn't really basically cooperate. Kyle O'Reilly, because Kyle O'Reilly was the MVP in his match. He was just hitting everybody that was fucking moving. That wasn't his teammate, and him doing that the eliminator spot on Lorcan and then basically hitting him with the flying knee onto the chair to basically pick up the win for the team. It showcased what he was doing earlier when he had those matches with Balor during the Takeover matches. His Balor where it's Kyle and Balor in the title matches during the summer. And him to get the win at the end of the year seemed really cool, and it was great to see Undisputed Era actually getting a win, because they did not get. No, actually, did they get the win in the first one? I can't recall.
No, I don't know.
I not off the top. I can't recall off the top of my head, but I think they won the first one. Second one they didn't. Second one they lost last year. But yeah, man, this was easily the best matchup. Like I said, the only gripes I had was Pat seemed a little bit of Super Cena in that matchup.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those ones like that whether or not that was a booking decision of them to book Pat that way, or if it was just Pat not really knowing that much on how to sell. Like as you said, like it was his second match. So
it could have been either way. Yeah,
yeah.
But I wouldn't have been surprised if it was maybe a booking decision. But the booking decision back during the pandemic was not so great, because they were basically going to segue from from doing the black and gold until 2.0, and we all know how 2.0 turned out. They immediately returned after a year of that shit.
Yeah. But if that is the Wargames pay per view for their one thing I always like to do is if you go back in time and change a booking decision from this match, Steve, what would you pick?
In terms of the people winning, no, I think all the people who won their matches respectfully. The only thing I would say is not have Pat McAfee be super fucking strong as he was. That probably be my only gripe. Otherwise, everything seemed to be pretty good to great in terms of the booking. Again, McAfee can't be fucking Cena in NXT. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we kind of hinted towards the one I was going to go for earlier, and it was just it just simply don't overuse Ghostface in the triple threat match.
Oh, that too. Oh, yeah, that too.
But that being said, like Steve, what is your rating overall for the Wargames pay per view?
I give it a B plus. You had, you started off a little awkwardly with the women's. Again, listen, I love the women's War Games. It's just unfortunately there was a lot of timing issues with that, and then you have three. Basically, it got better as the night progressed, and ending with probably the best match of the night. So like it started off a little awkward, but it got good. It got better and better and better, and then it got like banger with the War Games match. So I give it a B plus.
Yeah, but for me, I would easily give it 5 out of 5 stars. Like for me, it's one of those ones. Like while the women's War Games wasn't as good as the men's, I still think it was good, and it was like I still had fun watching all these matches. Like there wasn't a sleeper match on here. There was like, and why is it here? Does it need to be here? So yeah, but for that, it's time to spin the wheel and see what pay per view I'm going to be talking about next
Spin
week.
the wheel, make the deal. What do we got?
And what the one I do? Got it's No Mercy from 2017.
Oof.
And
That's an interesting pick.
Yeah, but I'll just bring it up to see what is on here. Oh yeah, it's one of those ones. It definitely sounds an interesting one, like especially if some of these. It's good to have another Bray Wyatt match to look forward to. But yeah. But did I actually download that clip, or did I imagine I did?
Ooh, this is not a good. This is not a good event. Good luck with that.
I mean, it's one of those ones like,
yeah. Yeah, no, it was the luck of the deal, and the luck ran out, in my opinion.
I mean, it's one of those ones like I don't think I watched this one live, so this like it's one of those ones like for all we know, like it might be enough that I'll enjoy in it. But it's one of those ones like
that's why this is what to do. Just be very patient because you're talking about booking decisions. Holy Moses, there's a lot of interesting booking decisions on this card.
Yeah,
that's what I'll say.
I mean, it's one of those ones like as I always say with especially nowadays, like this match may end up changing by next week, depending on if it's available on Netflix for me.
Oh, yeah.
Which it is actually there. So
There
but
you go. You can watch it now. That's good. That's better.
yeah,
Good.
especially with the fact that WWE have not put all their stuff on Netflix around the world, it makes it a lot harder to be able to watch some of these. Hopefully, they add stuff a lot over time, because I know it's always going to take ages. But
Yeah.
with that is the end of Speed from the Past this week. Steve, where can people find you online?
Oh, they can find me in the good old Instagram at smessa85. They can find me on Twitter and Facebook at messamedia1. I got some, and I'm a little laid back now. I got spring break coming. I'm actually going to be on the road to Macon, Georgia, so I'm traveling a little bit for the spring break, and then I think the next big event I have after that is the first weekend of May. I'm going to be in Chicago for Nightmare Weekend, Chicago, where Fantasy Super Cosplay Wrestling will have 3 nights of high flying, hard hitting action where wrestlers get to portray popular characters from anime, comic books, movies, TV shows, you name it, they play it. So like check that out. FSCW Wrestling on Twitter, FSCW Entertainment on Instagram. Check them out. They're awesome.
And yeah, and you can find me on Tape Productions hosting Rankin every week. This coming Sunday, we'll be talking about top 12 action movies of the 2020s so far.
Nice.
And you can find me on my own personal channel, Middle Earth Media, as I host Speed from the Past every week. Next week, we'll be talking about No Mercy 2017. But we've also got a special episode coming on Saturday where me, Jacob Cameron, and Richie Goodacre are going to be talking about the first 4 seasons of NXT, which is the reality show format one. So there we have that to look forward to as well. But until next time, we'll see you again. But until then, I'm gonna go out on.
I'm afraid I've got some.